with our word of the day. The word of the day today is tougher. Tougher, because as we look at this team as they begin practice today to get ready for the Washington game after winning 10 games in a row, I'm reminded of just how much tougher this team is than last year and maybe also 2022 and other years as well. Can't take it away from the team that won the Super Bowl, overcoming that Carson Wentz situation. That showed a lot of toughness. But even the Super Bowl year, everything basically went perfect. And then when they did, they just lost. Jalen Hurts got hurt a little bit. They lost both those games. This team had two big moments this season that could crumple a squad. They had a ton of injuries going into the bye. They're 2-2. The city and nationally, they're treating 2-2 like it's 0-4. People are panicking. It's going to be like last year. You guys stink. This includes Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, a lot of people taking a lot of heat at that point. And the offensive line goes to the coach and says, put it on us. We're going to run the ball. Saquon's great. And remember, A.J. Brown had missed 3 straight games when that conversation happened. You saw what happened. They went 9 in a row. Then they get another situation where A.J. Brown comes out. He's unhappy. Wide receivers can sometimes blow up a team if you don't get them the ball. We've seen that firsthand. But because they're tougher and built for it, what do? They respond well. They come out with a tremendous performance against the Steelers. As we try to look ahead, I'm just going to say it. We've seen how dominant they are on the line of scrimmage, the offensive and defensive side of the ball. We've seen it all season. They've proved it time after time. But also, I think they're tougher off the field than some other teams because of the adversity that they've gone through and have overcome that adversity. I got to give credit to Nick Sirianni. I got to give credit to Lane Johnson, guys like that. And, of course, you have to give credit to your quarterback. And what's crazy to me about it is Philadelphia is a city that loves toughness. You could ask, I believe if we poll the majority of fans, and they say you could only pick one, talent or toughness, in many cities they would take talent. In Philadelphia, we would take toughness. Mixed results going with that, but that's just the truth of the matter. So now I got to ask the question to the people. Can this team, in addition to the talent, because we know they have excellent talent, could they just go out there and beat these other teams the rest of the way and into the playoffs just because they're tougher than them? I mean, I really mean that. In the postseason, what's going to happen to them that they can't overcome? Now, if they lose a big player, that's different. I'm talking about what kind of adversity? They've been down in games. Has it mattered? They've had drama off the field. Has it mattered? They had injuries. Has it mattered? It seems to me like nothing can derail this team because of how mentally tough they are. And here's the thing about drama in real life. And anybody who's ever been going through anything knows this. Sometimes you are hardened by the things you go through. You know, you live your life, and you ever come across a person where everything's kind of been handed to them in their life, or they've had tremendous luck? Sometimes that adversity can really undo them. Then you see other people who have, been challenged a lot in their lives, and they've had to overcome things, and you don't really pick this. This is something that kind of happens to you, and some people are just luckier than others. I'll say this candidly, and not because she's in the other room. As far as a young person, and I really mean this honestly, Savannah is about as tough mentally as any person her age can be. And I truly mean that. I say that from the heart because of things that she had to go through in her life that are real. And I don't think Savannah want to wish that on somebody else, so that doesn't make Savannah better. What I'm saying is it makes Savannah tougher. And then you bring it back to the football. When you have that collapse last season, and you bring back your head coach and the quarterback and a lot of that group, not everybody, but you bring a lot of that group back. Yeah, it stunk at the time, but I believe based on how they've reacted to things this year, this made them tougher. And right now, as I sit here on this Wednesday, Ricky Bo, in addition to the talent and the X's and O's and all that stuff, I think they're going to have a toughness advantage all the way through into the Super Bowl.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. When you go to last year and the collapse that they had, you have to come out of that with something. Whether it's probably is it a positive, is it a negative? Probably at the time they really thought it was a negative. They went down to Tampa and got it handed to them. They probably thought that was all a big negative, and how are we ever going to overcome this? But when you come back the following year and guys have been through something like that, nothing can really startle you anymore. I mean, that's about as epic of a collapse as you could possibly have as a football team last year. Sitting at 10-1, everything's hunky-dory. Nothing seems to be bothering this team. And then a whitewashing and everything falls apart at once. Now, how do you pick yourselves up from that? Well, you come back the next year. You take what you learned from that and don't let it happen again. And I look at it this way. What just happened with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, I look at that as something that could have started tearing the locker room apart. You know what happened? It didn't. It made them stronger again. And that is saying now that, hey, adversity could hit you slap you right in the side of the head, kind of like Jalen Carter did to the Steelers offensive lineman. It could slap you in the side of the head, but you know you can get back up and be better from it. And I think they've learned from that. And when that happens, it makes you, number one, mentally tougher. And number two, toughness, you could look at a couple different ways. There's obviously the mental toughness, which I think this team has. And they've shown. They've gone through some adversity early this season. Kind of just walked through it like it was no big deal. And then all of a sudden you get to this thing with Jalen and they get through that. But as you watched on the field, their toughness physically is also there. They have worn teams down in the second half. Games that were close up until halftime vanish for the other teams. Why? Because of toughness. And I think on both ends, both mentally, I think they learned from last year. I think they learned from a couple things that happened adversely this year, and they've grown from it. And what happens when you grow from it? You become closer. You become closer, you become a stronger knit group.
Absolutely. And I think that and the thing that gets me so excited about it is it shows that growth is possible. Because sometimes, at certain times, people just are what they are. There's a certain age, like, the holidays are coming up. And you're going to love your family. But everybody knows the uncle where you can't bring up a certain thing. Or the person where it's like, all right, well, we're not going to talk about this. Because Uncle such and such is going to go crazy.
He's going to go through the roof.
That's what I'm saying.
Then it's going to start a fight. Then he's going to talk about this. That's going to start some. Oh,
someone's
yeah.
gonna leave.
Certain people, you got to kind of keep them 1 or 2 drinks at the most.
Oh, yeah.
Because they get to drinking too much, then they start acting a certain kind of way. That's just how they are. But many times with pro athletes who are in their 20s most of the time, we make these sweeping, or young 30s, we make these sweeping decisions about them, and they're not the correct thing because and I understand why we're frustrated in the moment. I'm not suggesting at all that we shouldn't have been furious about how the last season ended. But when you have a coach who is just in his 3rd year as a head coach, it's not like Nick Sirianni was a head coach in high school, then was a head coach in college, then he came here. That was the first time Nick Sirianni had went through something like that. And the question was, could he grow from it? The answer is absolutely yes. He's a tougher, better coach because of it. And another thing that could have happened, that thing with Jalen Carter on the sideline last season would have lingered for weeks or months or who knows how long. That thing was done by the end of the game, and that happened in the 4th quarter. At the start of that 10-minute drive, them two hated each other. By the end of the game, it was squashed.
As well it should be.
Right. That shows you the growth. Same thing applies to Jalen Hurts and a lot of other people. Because of a failure last season, we were rightfully mad. But we didn't have the crystal ball to know how they were going to react to it.
But we didn't care. When they went down to Tampa and got whooped, we didn't care how they reacted to it.
You don't care. But when you come back this season, and obviously all the new additions make a huge difference. Obviously. But look at how much better Jalen Carter is this year than last year. Look how much better Kobe Dean is this year than last year. Look how much better Nick Sirianni is this year than last year. Jalen Hurts. Look how much better they were able to diffuse drama this year compared to last year. And I think because we've been able to see that path, because they've gotten better, because they're tougher, That's where I have to bring it back once again. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm out there with the ears to the streets. There's people afraid of this, and what if they have to do that? I'm not worried about anything with this football team because they pass every test and because they've actually been tested before. And I think part of the problem last season for the Eagles was that it was too easy in 2022. Perfect health. They go through and just cut through everybody. And then the Super Bowl happened. Okay, the Bradbury call happened. The punt return happened. But until then, that season was just almost too perfect.
It was.
And then as soon as adversity hit the next year, they weren't built for the adversity because they had never been through any adversity. Well, once you go through that last year, as you mentioned, Ricky, what the heck could happen this year that's going to be as bad as what happened last year? In sports, that had never happened. That had never happened before.
And with the Eagles, you look at it this year, they had the rough start. It wasn't a terrible start. It just wasn't what anybody expected that they were going to start off. And, they're sitting at 2-2. And you're thinking to yourself, are they going to be mediocre? Are they going to be a little better? Are they going to are they somehow going to patchwork this? It wasn't even a patchwork thing. It was a growing thing for them.
Yep.
We didn't see that. You never see that coming. You never see that Saquon was going to have the type of season he's having. And then all of a sudden it's a different look offense. It was a hard time for people to enjoy the offense because nowadays we think offense, football, passing. Well, the Eagles are a little different. They could do it a couple different ways and beat you up a little bit. But you look at Nick Sirianni. Early in the season, he had some issues. Then 3 games later, he had some more issues with the fans. After that, stopped altogether.
Right.
That tells me that other people were not afraid to jump in and say, look, here's what we need from you also. You're the leader of this team. You're a coach. You're the head coach. If you're going to be doing this, that gives everybody else permission to do whatever you're doing and then some. So
Absolutely.
what you have to do is figure out what you're doing wrong yourself. Fix it, which Nick Sirianni has, and then let's just move on with the season. And that's what they've done. And I think there's a belief in that locker room of every person. Everybody looks to the right, looks to the left. They have a belief in those people.
Completely agree with that, Ricky. Completely agree with that. 610-632-0975. Word of the day. Tougher. Yes, they're talented. Yes, they're well coached. But also the ingredient they have this year that maybe they didn't have in 2022 and they definitely did not have in 2023 is they have more toughness, both physical on the field, like you mentioned, Ricky, and mental toughness that they didn't have. And that's why when the national pundits or local fans or national fans, I don't care. I feel great about my football team, and there's not a damn thing that's going to shake me that this is the best team in football for both tangible and intangible reasons. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. If you want more of this content, make sure you like and subscribe. And you can do that kind of over here if you want more of the best show ever.